What if the thing you're most afraid of is the exact thing standing between you and the life you've always dreamed of? I know that sounds dramatic, but so many of us use fear as a stop sign, myself included. We assume that if we're scared, it must mean something is wrong, that we're not ready, that we're making the wrong choice, or that we're about to fall flat on our face. But what if fear isn't the enemy? What if it's actually a compass? What if the most courageous, most aligned thing we could do is see what's on the other side of that fear? I'm in the middle of taking a leap and starting something new and putting myself out there in a way that I never have before. And I'm needing to overcome this gut-wrenching anxiety that's balling up in my stomach. But now that I'm starting to take those next steps, I want to talk about what it's teaching me about fear. How fear isn't here to stop us, but it's here to guide us. This time I'll take it slow. So it's no secret that fear has a bad reputation. We treat it like it only shows up when something is wrong. But the reality is, fear also shows up when something is right. When we're on the edge of something bigger, something we've never done before. Think about it. The moments in life when fear really steps in is when we're stepping out of our comfort zone, or trying something new, or taking a risk that actually matters to us. And when I look back on things that have caused me fear in the past, they've usually involved taking some sort of career leap or some big life decision that will have long-term effects. And although I'm in a bit of a career pivot right now, figuring out what's going on, those leaps are choices that I'm still proud of today, both professionally and personally. Because fear isn't always a red light. A lot of times it's actually a yellow light getting you to slow down and realize, hey, this is something important to you. This is something worth doing, worth exploring, worth approaching with curiosity. Once I stopped looking at fear as a stop sign and more as a yellow moment of pause and started approaching it with curiosity, things have begun shifting. It's not some magical leap, but they're starting to change. They're starting to shift, and I'm starting to remember who I am without fear. So instead of assuming fear means stop, ask yourself, is this something dangerous, or am I just afraid because this is something new? Is the feeling I'm feeling mean don't do it? Or does it mean that this is worth exploring and figuring out? I recommend ditching the hesitation and approaching fear with curiosity instead. Because if we never do the things that make us afraid, we will never give ourselves moments and opportunities to continue growing. But let's talk about the real reason fear holds us back. All the self-doubt and the inability to trust ourselves and our decision-making skills. And this is something we talked about a little bit last week when we explored the topic of feeling stuck and feeling behind, feeling afraid to take that next best step because we're not even sure what that next best step is. And half the time, fear is really just the story that we created for ourselves. It's where we think up and conjure all of the possibilities of what could go wrong. What if I fail? What will people say if I do? What if I'm not the right person for this? What if I'm not enough? Our brains love to play horror movies starring us as the main character. But what if instead of seeing horror film strips, we close our eyes and challenge ourselves to see the best case scenario? Think about a feel-good comedy movie where nothing can ever really go that bad. A best case scenario where you don't fail, you actually thrive because, surprise, everything that you feel like you need is already within you because you've always been enough. You are enough, and you always will be enough. I say that to you as I say that to me. I get a lot of healing from watching these videos in the same way that y'all do, because I go through the editing process and I'm watching things back, and sometimes while I'm editing, I even need to hear these things said. And while I'm speaking, I need to hear these things said. And these are things that I have said and continue to say to myself time and time again, because we constantly need those reminders and those refreshers, right? I'm beginning to realize that the existence of fear is just proof that we are about to level up. Something that helps me when I'm in the middle of facing a fear is thinking of the worst case scenario. And I know that is quite literally the opposite of what I just told you to do with thinking of the best case scenario, but hear me out. I like to sit and think, okay, what is the worst thing that could happen if I make this choice? I sit, I write it down in my journal, and I think about everything that can go wrong. It's a good way to kind of just get the emotions out and expel that energy so it's not just bottled and caged up inside of me. And most of the time, the more I write, the more ridiculous everything sounds. And the more I'm like, girl, please, like, be so for real. Be so for real. Then when I take a moment to actually read through everything I wrote, I realize that if this is the worst case scenario my imagination could conjure, I really don't have too much to be worried about because it's really not that bad. Maybe I wasn't thinking worse enough, but I'm only having to challenge my own belief system, right? And you only have to challenge yours. So instead of letting fear paralyze you and keep you stuck, challenge it because fear is the reason that you might even be feeling behind anyway. And most of the time, the scariest part about failing isn't the failing itself. It's the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and the regrets of thinking back on all the times that you decided not to bet on yourself. Every time you chose the safe option instead of the option that your heart wanted the most. But now that we know fear is not the enemy, and we've called out self-doubt for the negative Nancy that she is, how do we move forward? We're never gonna feel 100% ready to take the risk, launch a thing, or try something new. But if we wait for that magical moment where all the fear disappears, we'll be waiting forever. 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 Because if we're being honest, if you look at yourself honestly in the mirror, you know that waiting to feel ready is just a trap. It's just an excuse we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better about not taking that next step. But girl, you're ready. You're just afraid. And it's easier to say, I'm not ready, I'm unprepared, than to simply say, I'm scared. And I don't know why that is. But you'd have to unpack that for yourself, or maybe we can unpack that in another video. When I decided I wanted to get into set design and decoration, I explored a bunch of different avenues towards making that happen. And eventually that led me to packing up everything, leaving Atlanta, and relocating back to New York with no job and no industry connections. And while I did have and still do have family and support in this city, without the proper industry relationships, I was taking quite the risk on myself, quitting my job and everything I knew for something I had no idea if it will work out. But I started small. I started taking small steps, and eventually those led to major results. And even though I had no idea how things would turn out, if they would go well, somewhere in my heart of hearts, I believed that I would be okay. And I was. So right now I'm taking a page from the book of my younger self, and I am advising and encouraging you guys to do the same. Start small, but don't stand still. You don't need to take a giant leap today or even tomorrow. You just need to take one baby step forward. One big step if you can, but a baby step if that's all you got. If fear is holding you back from starting something that you've been dreaming of, what is the easiest step you can take towards that goal today, towards approaching that fear today? What is one tiny action you can take that will help you move forward? Remember when we talked about Odyssey planning last week? If you didn't tune into last week, stop what you're doing, tap in and click the link and up here somewhere and go watch that and then come back. Here is what I came up with for my 3 options. Option 1, aka my current reality, is a calm 2 out of 5. Absolutely not the plan I would like to continue with, and it's not even the plan I ever put myself on. Option 2, aka my exciting plan B, is a calm 4.5 out of 5, and absolutely the path I'm currently pivoting into that I'm pretty excited about. Then there's option 3, aka the plan that follows my heart's desires with wild abandonment. An exciting 6 out of 5, and absolutely a plan I will follow and a path I will take once I have completed my excited plan B, or at least have gotten my excited plan B on a place where it's stable and I can start something new. And I'm looking forward to both of those paths because this path that I'm on is ghetto. And I know I gave it a 2 out of 5, but it's almost a 0 out of 10 recommend. But Gotta count your blessings at the same time, so I can never give anything a zero. But if you want to know more specifics about my exact options, as well as my pros and cons, best and worst case scenarios, and going beyond my score system, you'll just have to wait until I am ready to reveal my exciting plan B. Even though I'm a firm believer of speaking your dreams and goals into existence, I also know that people be lurking and watching and plotting on our downfall. Sometimes we have to keep our plans limited to ourselves, God, and the trusted few in our inner circle. So if fear has been standing in between you and the life or path you would like to explore, I have something I want you to ponder and journal a little bit about. Think of the fear that has been holding you back and write down one small step you can take in that direction this week. And of course, if you're feeling spicy, sounds off in the comments because I'd love to know. And if I had to share mine, I have been working on this business, as I've mentioned a little bit. And so I'm taking the next step towards it by planning my first experience that will be under my brand and business. So that's all I will say for now until it is time to reveal more. But I'm taking that small step of creating the plan and setting a date. You know, when you set a date is real. Puts a little bit of pressure, but it also allows you to stay disciplined and stay the course. So remember, momentum is built through small, courageous moments. Every time you take an action despite fear, you prove to yourself that you can handle it, how much you can handle. And that's how confidence is built, not by eliminating fear, but by acting in the face of it. But as always, if this resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Of course, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Uncharted Wellness. I will catch you in the next video. Bye!